Tonight I just want to talk to you a little bit about a man named Job. See, Job in the Bible had his worries, had his moments. Very wealthy man, maybe one of the richest men of that time back then. But we'll get right into it and talk a little bit about Job. In Job, the first chapter, and verses 1 through 3, it says, "There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. And that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. There were born unto him 7 sons, 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East." Many scholars have said that in that time, his livestock alone was probably worth right about $750,000 to $790,000. So Job was a very, very wealthy man. But even though Job was a wealthy man, he still honored God and still looked to God for his direction. And then when we get down into the 6th verse, things start happening. And it says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered to the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made a hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side, that thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and the substance is increased in the land? But put forth thine hand and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord." And Satan realized that Job was different. He wasn't rattling. Many things happened to Job. It started by his children ran off and killed by some of Job's enemies. Then these people either slew or took all of his livestock, and then they sent then a fire was sent down, and as if it fell from heaven, and it burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed his goods and his the stuff that he was growing. And then they came down, and more people attacked him and killed the rest of his servants. And still, yet Job wasn't shaken. He prayed about it and left it in God's hands. So Satan went back to God, and God told him, I'll allow you to mess with Job, basically, but don't kill him. I will not allow you to kill him. So a plague came upon Job, and he started getting boils all over his body, from the top of his head to the soles of his feet was just covered in boils, and he was miserable. And it got to the point where Job was so miserable that his wife was losing faith, and she was talking to him one time, and she said in Job 2:9, she said, "Why don't you just curse God and die? Get past this misery." But Job wouldn't do it. And then Job's friends came, and they pretty much chided him in the same way and wanted him to just let nature take its course and go on home, so that he wouldn't be in the anguish that he was in. And Job got to such a low point, he felt that maybe it would be best just for me to die. I just want to give up so bad. I've lost all my possessions. I've lost my kids. My wife's turned on me. My friends have turned on me. And he had even thought about maybe just doing what they had said, curse God and give up. But then in that last moment when he was praying, he said, no, I'm going to hold on. God has been good to me. God will see me through. And as time kept on going, Job began to wonder, where do I stand with God? How are things looking for me? And throughout the book of Job, it tells us of his struggles. So it wasn't just a short time, it was a long struggle that he had. And tells us of his struggles and his losses, yet Job holds on. Job holds on to God and holds on to his faith in God. Even in his darkest moments, he cried out to God for comfort and peace from his problems. Now, in the end, God had proven his point to Satan that Job was an upright man. And God honored Job's willingness to stick with God through thick and thin. Because Job had served God through thick and thin, and in his worst times, God decided to honor Job. And in Job, finally, way down into the 42nd chapter, in the 10th verse, it says, "And the Lord turned the captivity of Job. When he prayed for his friends, also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. He gave him more children, he blessed him, and he allowed Job to go on and live a long life and see his children grow up, get married, and have children. And Job lived a long, fruitful life." You know, that reminds me of a lot of what many of us are going through right now. Not to the extreme that Job was, but we have found ourselves in a time when an epidemic is causing a lot of fear, a lot of hurt, and some death. And many of us aren't dealing with that well. Many of us are wondering what's going on. But I just want to encourage you that even as Job went through this time, and we're going through this time, just as Job came out of it because he held on to God and he honored God, if we hold on and honor God, we are going to come out of this too, and God is going to richly bless us. Now, I just want to encourage each and every one of you to hold on to God, honor God throughout this time in everything, your finances, your life, and the way you treat people, and God will help us through this, move it on, and he will honor us in the long run if we honor him while things are going bad. Just want to say, have a blessed week. Stay in touch with God. Love your family, and do whatever you can to help those around about you. Amen.